Hi everybody, welcome back to Goodnight Lighthouse. I'm Miss Dorothy and I'm here to read you another story. And I've got a story today about a bear. A bear who's a little scared. And this book is called, I'm Not Scared, You're Scared. I'm not scared, you're scared. This is about a book about a bear and a rabbit. Bear's a little afraid, the rabbit's not. And every time the rabbit wants to do something, he says, Bear, are you scared? We need to get into this book and find out if Bear really is scared and if he can get over that. Are you ready to get inside this book with Miss Dorothy? Good. I need you to sit up and listen up because here we go.
I'm Not Scared, You're Scared. Written by Seth Meyers. Pictures by Rob Sayegh Jr. There once was a bear who was easily scared. Each night before going to sleep, he would tie a bell to his door that would make a noise if anyone tried to sneak in, because even a bear who is easily scared is a very heavy sleeper. He was even afraid of his own reflection, and because he couldn't see himself, he never brushed well and always had food stuck in his teeth. When you're a scared bear with food in your teeth, you don't have many friends. Poor bear, he's very scared. Bear had one. Rabbit. Rabbit was never scared. She read scary stories. She slept with her door wide open. And she brushed her teeth while hanging from a tree branch by her ears. This gave her very strong ears. Well, Bear may be scared, but Rabbit is very brave. One day, Rabbit made an announcement. Bear, we are going on an adventure. Bear suggested that instead of going on an adventure, they could read a book about adventures. That way, if anything goes wrong, we can just close the book, said Bear. Rabbit looked at her friend and asked, Bear, are you scared? And Bear replied, I'm not scared, you're scared. And with that, Bear walked past Rabbit and out the front door. Bear's gonna go on the adventure. Bear stopped to make sure they had everything they needed. Do I need a bike helmet? Bear asked. No, said Rabbit. Do I need oven mitts? No, said Rabbit. Do I need bear repellent spray? You're a bear, said Rabbit. Oh, that's right. After walking a while, they came to a small stream. It looks deep, said Bear. It's not deep, said Rabbit. It looks cold, said Bear. It's not cold, said Rabbit. It looks like it's filled with fish who have very sharp teeth, the kind of fish who would like nothing more than to nibble at the ankles of a delicious bear. Rabbit looked at her friend and asked, Bear, are you scared? And Bear replied once again, I'm not scared, you're scared. And with that, Bear walked along the stream until it narrowed enough that he could step over it. There he found Rabbit, who had fallen asleep waiting for him. It took Bear a really long time to get across that stream. After a bit longer, they came to the edge of the woods. It looks dark, said Bear. It's not dark, said Rabbit. It looks spooky, said Bear. It's not spooky, said Rabbit. It looks like it's full of trees that are going to fall down and bonk us on the head, said Bear. Rabbit looked at her friend and said, Bear, are you scared? And Bear replied, I'm not scared, you're scared. And with that, Bear realized he would do anything to avoid the dark and spooky woods, walked to the road where he waited for the bus. The bus picked him up and drove him all the way around the forest. When he got to the other side, he woke up Rabbit, who had once again had fallen asleep waiting for him. Bear had to take a bus to get around the forest. Rabbit went right through and then took another nap. They walked some more until they came to a mountain. It looks high, said Bear. It's not high, said Rabbit. It looks slippery, said Bear. It's not slippery, said Rabbit. It looks like one of those rocks will fall and roll and land on my paw, said Bear. Rabbit looked at her friend and just had to ask, Bear, are you scared? And Bear replied, I'm not scared, you're scared, poor Bear. And with that, Bear realized he would do anything to avoid the high and slippery mountain, walked to the nearest train station. The train took him halfway around the mountain to an airfield. At the airfield, Bear bought a ticket on a helicopter that flew him to the top of the mountain and dropped him off next to Rabbit, who, with no surprise, had fallen asleep. "Rabbit," said Bear, waking her up, "should we go home?" "I am not going home," said Rabbit as she bounced off with Bear following behind her. Rabbit really wants to go on this adventure. Bear's doing anything to get out of it. After a bit more walking, they found themselves at one side of a long rope bridge. Bear stopped. It looks too rickety," said Bear. "Well, it might be a little rickety," said Rabbit. "It looks old," said Bear. "Well, it might be pretty old," said Rabbit. "It looks like the boards might break if you were heavy enough," said Bear. Yeah, agreed Rabbit. Rabbit looked at her friend and said, "Bear, are you scared?" And Bear took a deep breath and said, "Yes! Yes, Rabbit, I am scared. I was scared of the river, and I was scared of the forest, and I was scared of the mountain, but I am the most scared about this old, long, rickety bridge." And with that, Bear turned around and headed home. Oh, no. He marched back to the helicopter that flew him back to the airfield. He took the train back to the forest, the dark and spooky woods, where he got on a bus that took him to the river, the deep and cold stream, so he could cross where it was narrow, and then trudged all the way back to his house, where he crawled into bed. Rabbit went to the middle of the bridge and thought, "See, this bridge isn't dangerous. It's a good bridge." And to prove it, she started to jump up and down, and then she jumped harder. And then she jumped harder than she had ever jumped in her life. And then, the board she was jumping on cracked in half, and Rabbit fell right through the hole in the bridge. Lucky for Rabbit, she had very strong ears, but she knew she wouldn't be able to hold on forever. And because of this, Rabbit, for the first time in her life, was scared. Now, Bear and Rabbit hadn't noticed, but throughout their journey, they had been followed by a small bird. Bird realized she had to get help, so she flew as fast as she could, all the way to Bear's house. Wow, it's a good thing that bird was following them. Bird flew in Bear's window and started chirping as loud as she could, but Bear didn't wake up, because even bears who are easily scared are very heavy sleepers. Bird was about to give up when she saw the bell on the doorknob. Bird put her head inside it and shook it as hard as she could. Ding, 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 ding! Bear jumped out of bed to hear Bird yell, "Rabbit has fallen through the bridge and needs your help!" Oh, no! And in that moment, Bear felt something he had never felt before. Courage! He was so worried about his friend that instead of staying home where it was safe, he ran out the door, faster than any bear had ever run before. Go, Bear, go! When Bear reached the stream, he ran through it. It only came to his ankles. When he came to the forest, he ran right through it. It was only 3 trees. And when he came to the mountain, he didn't even think about taking a train and a helicopter. He just climbed right up it. It wasn't very high, but Bear's being very, very brave. Meanwhile, Rabbit was now hanging on with one ear. She could feel it slipping too. And just as she lost her grip, Bear grabbed her by the ear and lifted her to safety. "Bear, were you scared?" asked Rabbit. And Bear said with pride and honesty, "Rabbit, I was scared." "I was scared too," said Rabbit. And Bear smiled and said, "Sometimes it's okay to be scared." That night when Bear brushed his teeth, he didn't hide from his reflection. He looked right at it. And you know what he saw? A very brave bear with no food in his teeth, of course.
Yay! Look at that brave bear. Look at how brave he is now. Looking in the mirror, brushing his teeth, not scared at all. Bear was really afraid of a lot of things, and Rabbit wanted to go on an adventure. And Bear kept trying to find ways to get around it because he was too afraid. And Rabbit would say, "Are you scared?" And he's like, "I'm not scared, you're scared." But he really was scared, and he wouldn't do certain things until his friend was in trouble. And when his friend was in trouble, he got very, very brave. And he ran through all those things that he was afraid of before. And he helped his friend. Wow, that's a good, brave friend right there. I'm very proud of Bear. I am so excited that helping his friend was more important than being afraid. Wow, that takes a lot of courage. You know what? I know that sometimes we're afraid of things, and it's okay. It's okay if you're afraid of things sometimes. But sometimes you just have to be brave, and you have to do what's right, because somebody may need you, and if somebody needs your help, you have to be brave. But you know what you also need to remember? There's so much you don't have to be afraid of, because you have your mom and dad there to help you, and you have teachers to watch over you, and if they want you to do something, it's probably safe to do. Mom and dad wouldn't try to get you to do something that wasn't safe. You can be brave whenever you're with your mom and dad. That's something you don't ever have to worry about. Mom and dad are there to protect you and teach you and show you how to do things. So if they want you to do something and you're a little scared, it's okay to be scared. Tell them you're a little afraid, and they'll help you through it. They will help you to become brave, brave like a bear. And the best thing you can do when you're with mom and dad to stay safe, obey, and obey right away. And then come back and see Miss Dorothy, because I'm going to be sitting right here, ready to read another book to you. Bye!
Thanks for reading with Miss Dorothy. I hope you enjoyed this book, and I hope you'll come back soon to read another. What's your favorite book? Drop Miss Dorothy a note and let me know. I'll go find it, and I'll read it to you. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share. I'll see you soon.